Okay, we've got your complete guide to ice dams here. We're going to talk specifically Wasatch Back Park City, but wanted to show you guys a diagram. Make sure you got a good understanding of what ice dams are, some myths about them, and then solutions and where they kind of fit in. So let's jump into it. Ice dams fundamentally are water and ice freezing and thawing in these freeze-thaw cycles. A lot of it has to do with heat transfer from the house hitting the roof deck and causing the snow that has accumulated up here to melt underneath the snow and then freeze at the eave. So you've got warm interior space here, elevating the temperature of the roof deck, and then once it hits the exterior of the soffit and the cold, because there is no internal heat here, it's not an internal wall, it freezes. And what happens over time is it'll warm up during the daytime when temperatures are rising, and then the home temperatures are also rising, and then freeze at night. Then you'll get this big block of ice here at the eaves or in valleys that will block and freeze and push water back against the roofing system. So if this is your roofing system here, it's obviously designed to shed water off and away from the roof. What you'll see here, there's this dam ice here, and it pushes the water back against the system, right? So ice dams aren't actually caused by snow. Really, it is the relationship between the interior heat and the roofing deck via the attic, and then the temperatures outside that cause ice dams. So here in Utah, we get freeze and thaw cycles. You know, temperatures in the day will rise, it'll melt things down, and then in the evening, when it gets real cold, they'll freeze right back up in valleys or at the eaves in these different areas, and causes water to push against the system. So obviously there is huge concerns as a homeowner when you have ice dams. A couple of key things to look out for is if you're seeing large ice formations at your eaves, you're probably going to want to get that checked out. Not that all icicles or all ice at the eaves means that you're going to have problems, but that's a cue to keep an eye on it. If you start seeing ice going behind your gutters, or that the water flow in the gutters has stopped, that's kind of like the next stage, right? Like, ooh, maybe I've got a problem here. It may have not manifested itself in an actual leak, but probably something you're going to want to get checked out and either clear that ice or have a professional come out and take care of that for you. If you start seeing interior water staining, interior water, for sure that's a problem. And also if you start seeing water coming out of the soffit, whether that's metal or wood soffit, or coming down walls, you're definitely going to want to call somebody, see what kind of situation you got. As soon as you see those things, call somebody. Call a professional, because you're going to want to make sure that you mitigate any issues. Even if you have an insurance policy that covers that, the pain, the hassle, the time through managing that, it becomes something that's not worth dealing with, right? Let's talk about ways to mitigate or prevent ice damming. You know, Mother Nature is Mother Nature. There's no way to control her. And even if you've got a well-designed roof, you've got heat systems, you've got snow maintenance, there's still opportunities for Mother Nature to win. But let's dive into those three solutions and how they can help you maintain your roof. Here at Biotel, we always say, and we always talk to our customers, our general contractors and architects and homeowners, treat your roof like landscaping, like a garden. It's a living, breathing thing. And without proper care, you know, it will get wild and it won't perform the way that it needs to. So number one way to mitigate or ensure that you've got control of your ice dams, or you're controlling the amount of snow on your roofs, is through winter maintenance. That includes having regularly scheduled services for snow removal, making sure that you have a qualified roofer or property manager inspecting the roofs during the winter, after big snow events, and then obviously doing proactive maintenance checks in the spring. And if you're interested in those things, go ahead and hit up Viatel. We'd love to be able to help you make sure that your roof's ready to perform in the wintertime, and then thereafter, the following spring, to make sure we can assess for any damages. So number one, snow maintenance, snow management, ice management. That's a surefire way to keep control of water and snow on your roof. Let's talk about during build, the build phase of your roof. One of the best ways to mitigate snow and ice issues for the roof and make sure that you create a environment where it can perform well is through insulation. Insulated sloped roofs or insulated flat roofs, either way, there is what we call R value, and essentially it's an accumulation of insulation, and based on that, every inch of insulation is about 5 degrees of R value, right? And so the more R value, obviously the better insulated that roof is. Why is that important? Why does that matter? Well, if you design your roof to have a certain amount of R value, what it's going to do is it's going to create a thermal break here in your roof. And so what that does is it keeps the temperatures outside, and it keeps the heat in the interior of the house inside. And so with that going all the way to the eaves, essentially the snow and ice just accumulate normally, and there's no thermal transfer of heat as you would see here without an insulated roof. So it's a nice thermal break. Pros to that is you're designing a roof to perform in the conditions that you're living in. Especially here in Utah, the Wasatch Front, the Wasatch Back. If you're living above 6,000 vertical feet, definitely talk to your architect and your general contractor, whether you're remodeling or a new build, to look at insulated roofs for your home. There is some upfront costs to that roof. That is a downside, but the long-term longevity of the roof outweighs that. It's almost like tripping over dollars to pick up pennies, because if you live in these conditions, you really should design the roof to manage the conditions. And so yes, there is a higher upfront cost on insulated roofs, but where you'll see savings is from winter maintenance. You won't need it as often. You'll also mitigate heat systems that typically see put on these homes, whether that's heat tape or you actually install heat panels underneath your roof assembly, which we'll get to. An insulated roof will actually mitigate the need for those, and you'll see savings that way. And so build your roof to perform where you're going to live, even if the upfront cost is a little bit more. Let's jump into heat systems. So a couple of different ways to attack heat systems. One is to, if you're a new build or you're remodeling, is to put the heat system underneath your current roof assembly, right? So you'll have your roof decking here, and then you'll put in roof panels that are heated, and essentially they're just a metal plate that transfers heat from a cable, and it goes underneath either your metal or goes underneath a slip sheet if you're doing shingle. There's a lot of different ways to do it. That's called a hybrid roof, where it goes from shingle to metal, or one finished product to the next. And so you'll put a heat panel there at the eave, creating consistency along that thermal band, right? The whole thing with ice dams is that you've got this heat and then the temperature change over here, right? So you can do heat system or heat panels on the eaves, underneath valleys, and that is a clean, aesthetic way to keep water flowing and keep water moving as designed with the roofs. Let's talk about heat cable. That is the most popular and the most common product that we see used for ice dam mitigation and control. It's good. Typically it's pretty low cost. It can be customized. It's highly customizable because you can really attack the areas that you're trying to mitigate, or you know that you're going to have a problem, like a north facing valley that's coming down into maybe a weird cricket or something. You could heat that and keep water flowing, right? The key to heat tape is not a large scale solution. It becomes cost prohibitive if you're trying to recreate heated panels. You should have just built it with heated panels, but it is an acute problem solver. The key with heat cable is, and with all of these systems, is to keep the water moving. And so even if you're designing a zigzag pattern on the eave of a roof, that's stage one, right? The second stage is you'll want to run heat through those gutters, because you don't want it freezing at the gutter. It defeats having the heat tape on the eaves anyways. So let's say you have heat tape on the eaves, you've got it running up the valley. Great. Then stage two, you've got it run through the gutters because it's going to keep that water flowing. And then obviously stage three, you're going to want it going down the downspout and off and out of the house. Heat tape's good. Again, it's an acute solution for unique areas. I think it can be overused to try to make up for insulated roofs or ventilated roofs that should have been designed, or heat panel systems. But heat tape's good. It's a quick solution. There are some drawbacks to it. One, you're limited on electricity, right? Well, one, you got to run it off of your electricity, so you got to consider the electrical draw and the power and the costs associated with that. You've got to make sure that you run it appropriately and that you design it so that the water keeps flowing. You got to think that heat cable is smaller than this dry erase marker. And so what happens is it's low voltage and it will heat the ambient area around it. And so I think a lot of homeowners or general contractors think, well, hey, how is the snow or ice overwhelming heat tape when it fails, when a system is designed? Well, you can only put so much heat tape in one area, first of all. And then second, the heat tape is designed to keep water flowing, keep channels going, but it is just a single cable. And so it only has so much power to emit and melt around it. So again, design, making sure that is appropriately laid out will help mitigate those things. So yeah, that's your complete guide to ice dams here in Utah and Park City. We walked you through some of the basics, some of the myths. You know, it's not because of snow, it's because of freeze-thaw cycles. We talked a little bit about internal heat transfer going to the eaves, hits the cold weather outside of the roof line or the interior walls. And then we talked about some of the solutions. We'll walk through those one more time so you got them. Snow maintenance and mitigation, key. Insulated or ventilated roof assemblies if you're building, great way to make sure your roof performs. Heat systems are a great solution, but again, think of them more as an acute solution for unique areas versus whole system solutions. But that gives you the rundown. Let us know in the comments if you got any questions. Happy to answer any that you guys got. Thanks.